Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Nikki here. Today it's part 5 installment of my Creative Collab Journal series. I do have a playlist if you want to see how I made this very simple junk journal. The idea of this is that each month we have to create a set of ephemera of different types and we swap it amongst the participants. So when this is over, this book will be filled with all sorts of beautiful things that I have received from around the country. So if you want to see how I made this journal and have a look at the other items I've made for this swap, you can check out the Creative Collab Journal playlist that I have made. And this time we have to make 3 side stacked pockets. Now, to help speed things up, I have already cut all my scraps and pieces of paper and everything down to size, just so I don't have to do all the cutting and trimming and everything, because that's boring. But I will explain what I've done with each piece. Now, the first one we're going to do is a 3 pocket side tuck. This one's sort of quite long and thin, and it all started when I found this little scrap, which I've done nothing to except put a little bit of vintage photo around the edge, and then of course I had to find some coordinating things to go with it. So this is the most plain of all of them, but they're incredibly simple to make. You just have to have a selection of pockets, all different sizes, and then of course you have to tuck things into it. So with this, all I'm doing is putting a very thin line of glue. Roughly, I need to know roughly how long it has to be. So I'm just going to place that there. And I'm trying to keep it thin. I'm trying to keep it close to the edge because obviously I want the pocket to work as best as possible to put pretty things in it. So this is a great way to use up leftover scrap pieces, just like I did with this one. This is just a little simple piece of cardstock. I again have done a little bit of vintage. Oops, see now look, that's what I'm not allowed to do. I can't have glue right up to the edge because I don't need glue in that part there. So the other thing I only vintaged photoed just sort of the front end that's going to be on display, because I'm just trying to speed things up a little bit. So there we go. Then we simply put that down there and we have pocket number 1. And then we do exactly the same thing here. I know this part's all a little bit boring, but just in case you've never made anything like this, this will just show you how simple it is to create a really fun thing that you can make for your own journals, or of course swap with someone else. So this second piece that I've put down is a piece of scrap that had a little bit of paint and coffee smooshed on it at one stage, and I had that little bit left over, so I've put that to good use. And voila, we have a 2 pocket. This one is a little simple one. I loved this and I didn't want to cut it any smaller, and I thought if I try and add a 4th one, because a lot of the time you make these with 4 pockets, it was just going to get a bit too tight. The pockets were going to be like too shallow. So I didn't do that. Now, the other thing I found in my stash was this very cute little butterfly, and it's actually quite cute on both sides. So I had to decide which one to go for, but I thought I would stick with the more plain side. And I haven't glued it the whole way over because I want to pop this on here, but I wanted to stick over the edge a little bit just for a bit of contrast, and I think that looks quite cute. And the other thing I thought I would add, I found this tiny little Tim Holtz specimen piece, and I thought I might just put that on there as well. Now, where are my tweezers? I had them 2 seconds ago. How do I oh, look, there they are. I don't know how. I think I need 25 pairs of these because honestly, I am always losing them. Now, where shall we put this? Now, which way up does this have to go? Oh, that's the right way. There we go. I think we might put this down here just for fun. So this is the first one, very simple. I've got all sorts of pretty bits to put in it, which we will get to in a minute, but I think we'll just let that dry a bit before we fill it. Now, the next one I've decided to do, oops, don't need those just yet. I've decided to do something smaller and square. So I have this piece of cardstock. I have stuck down this tiny little bit of leaf cutout that I had made. The next piece with this, I'm going to use this plain green one. Again, I like the plain than the pattern. It just makes the pockets more obvious, and I've given this one a torn edge just for something different. And then the next piece is already sort of done. I had this pretty tiny little scrap of cardstock that I wanted to use. So that's how I actually decided what size these were going to be. So I could use this piece up, and I thought I wanted to make them all different sizes. And then I've made a 4th pocket with a piece of vellum. And I was going to machine stitch around here, but I did not. I don't have my full supplies with me. They're still in storage. So I just hand sewed using some D&C thread because I know sometimes vellum and glue are not the best of friends and it can look mucky. So stitch that down, and I did stick this little die cut on the front here. So of course we're going to do exactly the same thing again. But I'm going to flip this up this way. I could have used this pattern side too, and I did and ah about this for a while, but I thought, no, I'm sticking with the plain because it will also make them the little piece, the little bits of ephemera that I'm going to fill the pockets with. It'll just help all that to stand out a bit better. So I've flipped it upside down so I sort of get my glue mark correct. And then down here, I'm going to do the same because it is a little bit wider down here. So you want to make sure that you only put glue where you actually need it. Look, in all honesty, this glue does dry completely clear. This is my favorite, must use all the time, Tiger Grip. Absolutely brilliant glue, and it always dries clear. So if you have a bit go off the edge, it really doesn't matter. So that's pocket number 1 done. And I think I may have said it, but I decided to put some torn edge on 2 of them and leave the other 2 done. Now, I did do a little bit of colour around the edge. I used cracked pistachio because these are all green. So I thought, look, just do things a bit differently, and we will use green instead of brown. I don't like everything being brown. I know you vintage lovers out there use brown all the time, but I get a bit over it. So I used cracked pistachio instead. Now I know which way this is going because of the stitching, so I've added glue the whole way around, and then we just pop this one down on here, and so that's a 4 pocket one. So again, we will fill that with goodies shortly. Let that dry off a bit and just get a bit firm. Now, the last one that I have to do, I have decided to do something quite a bit different with this one. I started off with an envelope, surprise, surprise. That way it can be stuck down on a page and flipped out, or you can just clip it in. Choice is yours. I will include a clip when I send this off. This was craft colour. I've just done a little bit of brown, and I'm not sure if the camera will catch it, but there's a bit of a lovely bronze colour in there as well. This is one of my favourite inks. This is one of the Brilliance ones. It's called Cosmic Copper, and it honestly just puts this gorgeous copper sheen on things. So I did that just to decorate this one, and again a little bit of vintage photo just around the edge. Then the next piece I've done, again, this was a scrap. It was almost the perfect size. I just had to trim off a tiny bit, so I went, oh, I'm going to use you. And I've already stuck down just this tiny little cluster that I found in my stash. Don't know who I received it off, but that's what I've got now. I've just realised, wouldn't it be easier just to do it this way? Why did I not think of this before? Instead of trying to measure things. Oh, I'm a dufferhead sometimes. I do like to make things difficult. Anyway, we've just figured that out now. I'm a bit slow in the uptake sometimes. This is a lot easier than having to measure, but it's okay. The only trouble, I think the reason why I don't often do this is because I have been known to actually glue the wrong side, and that can be quite devastating. But because I've got this there, that's making that part quite easy. So pop that one down. Now for something very different, I've decided one of the pockets is going to be made with this. This was a piece of a cheap placement I bought at one of those discount shops, and I coffee dyed it with some leftover coffee one day. And I thought that would make an interesting looking pocket. But I'm going to glue this one down a little bit differently. I am going to add a fourth pocket, so I don't want to glue right up to the edge because I don't think my fourth pocket will sit properly if it's just sitting on top of this. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently. I could just get a pencil, I think, and make marks, but we're just going to do it this way, even though this won't hold very well unless I sit it there for a while, but that's okay. And we're just going to run a bit down here just to hold it down. I think I might get the sewing machine out for this one. I'll decide once it's dry whether I feel it's solid enough. Otherwise, we may have to get the sewing machine involved here just to make this super stable. But as I said, I'll just wait and see how it goes. This glue is pretty amazing and will hold just about anything. But if I'm not happy, I will do that. So we've got our third pocket. And then the lucky last piece here. Quite a while ago, I made a piece of fabric using a white piece of sheet, and I glued lots of gorgeous napkins onto it, and I made a journal with that. I had this little scrap left. I barely had to cut anything off, and I thought that made a fabulous final pocket. And also because this is a bit thicker, I thought it's not, if I use just normal cardstock, when I press this down, it would make a very definite edge from the thickness of this. I think this is going to be a little bit kinder and may not look quite so definite. I also added this tiny little brass brad. I loved that little heart and I thought the colour was perfect. So again, we're going to do this like this. I'm going to be quite generous with the glue. I don't care if this pocket ends up a bit shallower, but I just feel we're going to need the glue to get this to stay. And then if I'm not happy with it, I will sew. So let's just get this one down and we'll see what happens. Voila. So just have to hold this down for a few minutes, and then you don't have to hold for long. This glue is pretty quick, but just initially while I'm trying to get it to stay there, just add quite a bit of pressure, and then I might even grab a couple of clips from my drawer here to hold this in place while it dries, I think. And I'll put it right down on the edge there, and just to help it adhere initially. And we'll see what happens. You don't know until you try it. No, see, yes, I think the sewing machine may be required for this one, but that's okay. So now we have our little pockets done. We need to add some pretty things to it. Now, this was an interesting experiment. I received this greeting card from one of my other swaps. And the lady that I'm swapping with this time likes embossed things. And I thought, oh, look, why don't I just pull some of this off, make it a bit darker because she doesn't like bright colours. And I went to pull this off thinking it would just be a single layer. And I have no idea how this has been made, but look at this. It's like multi-layers. Now, I don't know whether this is a thick, good quality sort of white serviette that she's used, but I've got multiple layers of this. I could make lots of these cards if I wanted to, so I'll play with that one day. I need to try. I think I better message her and actually find out what she used, because have a look how fabulous this is. All the layers are just brilliant. So I can colour those to whatever I want. But what I did, I cut a piece out. This is the bit that was actually stuck initially to the card. So I just rounded the corners, and then I sprayed this with coffee to make it this more neutral colour, because it goes with what we're doing here. And also a tiny bit of vintage photo I gently rubbed onto some of the flowers just to darken a little bit, and put this cute little Tim Holtz butterfly on there. So that is ephemera piece number 1. I found a sheet of these in my stash with these little mothy butterfly things. I thought that would make a great addition to this one as well. And another Tim Holtz piece, this very cute tiny little one, I thought was a perfect match sticking out there. So that's that one all done. Very happy with that. Then the next one, this one here, I have a few bits and pieces. I made this for something a while ago, and I think it's a great match. So we're going to put, that's right, it's a perfect fit if I put it in lengthwise. Also made this cute ticket from a masterboard with a few bits tacked on. I think that will go perfectly in there. And this is a tiny scrap. Well, it's not a scrap, it's a piece from a Rachel and Bella craft kit that I got. Actually, I think that's where a lot of this was done. It was for one of her, she does some great monthly things where lots of people contribute, and I did do one of those once, and I think that's from that kit. So that's a perfect one there. You can still see that little bit of hint of colour and everything. So that's that one ready to go. And then this one here, how are we going? Oh, we are gluing down. We're getting there. I think that should actually end up quite good, but I'll give it an hour or so and see what happens. So obviously we need to add some pretty bits to this. So this is another masterboard that I'm putting to good use. I've made a very large journaling card, stuck a couple of little bits on it. This was white, so I just sprayed a bit of coffee on it to tone it down. And I thought that would be a perfect thing to put into my envelope. Can't send someone an empty envelope. Then I found this in my stash. This was in a booklet of papers that I got in one of those craft magazines a long time ago. Stuck it down on some coffee dyed paper because it was very bright on the back and we don't want that. So I thought this postcard would be great for my first pocket. Then these two are cut aparts from a piece of scrapbooking paper I found in my stash. This one was quite dark. I have put the tiniest bit of copper around the edges. I just tend to do it like this. Sometimes if I just want a little hint of colour, I just do it like that to just give it a little bit of a lift. Thought that one would be perfect there. Again, you get just a little hint, even though then we're going to add this as our final piece. This one has quite a dark feel, so I sort of stuck with that, and I think that will look beautiful in there. So there we go. We have 3 pockets. No, yes, 3 side tuck pockets ready to go. Hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, pop them down in the box below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would love it if you did. I do paper crafting and paper planning videos. And until next time, stay safe and stay healthy. Bye for now.